Welcome, everybody. June 22nd, 2023, School Building Committee meeting agenda for the day. Let's start with a roll call. Mr. Austin Ball, please.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Manager Golden?
Here.
Michael Vaughn? Connie Martin? Dr. Boyd? Richard Underwood? Michael Fiato? Here. Connor Baldwin? Present. Mark Byrne? Present. Okay. James Hall? Here. Mayor Chow? David Peasley? Here. William Samaras? Senator Kennedy? Councilor Leahy? Representative Elliott?
Here.
Mary Ann Manzi? Here. Jay Mason? Here. Maria Sheehy? Here. Benjamin Ampara?
He's waiting in on Zoom. He's zooming in.
Okay, give him a sec.
We have a couple people on the Zoom.
Thank you.
Senator Kennedy and Ben O'Para
Okay.
are here and are coming.
So on Zoom is Senator Ed Kennedy and Mr. O'Para. If you could please mark them present.
And I believe at the last school committee meeting, Ms. Martin resigned and Ms. Del Rossi was nominated to take her place.
Okay.
Yep. Bill Samaras is walking up.
Okay. Erica Harvey? We'll just continue. All right. And John Leahy?
Hello.
Or John Haley, excuse me. All right.
Can you hear us, Senator?
Hi, Sean. Ben is here also.
I don't have any volume.
We have 14 present. We do have a quorum tonight.
All right, great. 14
Hi,
present.
Connor.
And I know that I believe Mr. Samaras is en route. So 14 present, which gives us a quorum. I'm going to kick this over for a presentation. Jim, you want to start us off? Jim Dowd, sorry, from Skanska.
Good evening. The first item on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from the past three meetings, given that we have a quorum. If we could have that vote, Mr. Manager?
Vote for the last three minutes, excuse me, the 3 meeting minutes. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? No opposed? So moved. Mr. Samaras, thank you.
Manager,
Yes, Senator Kennedy, I believe that was.
yeah. Do you have me as marked as present for this meeting?
Yes, sir?
How about me, Mr. Manager?
Yes, Mr. O'Para, we do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The Zoom participants are able to hear us correctly, so we may just need to.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Perfect.
I can hear
Okay.
you, Connor.
Yep. All righty. Thank you for acceptance of the minutes. Jim?
And I will pass it over to Pana from Suffolk for the presentation on the construction project.
Good evening, everyone. If you look, well, actually, the packet is right in front of Manager Golden there, but you can also see it on the screen. We have our Phase 2 milestone construction update. So in June, we began the exterior framing and sheathing in Building F. So if you're driving down Father Morissette or Arcana Drive now, you'll see that all the exterior framing is up. And then you're gonna slowly see in the next couple of weeks that the building's gonna turn purple with the sheathing. We also began slab on grade at Building D. Spray fireproofing at Building F is projected to be complete in June as well. And then we're continuing MEP process in Bexley. And then looking ahead into July, we're going to begin facade work at Building F, the Freshman Academy. And then also, the roof will be weather tight in that building as well. And then in August, we're going to begin the facade work at Building D, and then the Building D roof weather tight. Okay, and then the next couple of slides are just project update photos. The first one you're going to see is the Building F Freshman Academy, just looking from the north elevation on Father Morissette Boulevard. So here you'll see that all of that exterior framing that I mentioned is up. And the next photo is the same building, just on the south elevation, looking from the courtyard side. You'll see here that some of the interior framing is also being installed. The next photo is an overall view of Building D. So this is where you'll see where the building actually connects into the gym on the right side there, and then connecting to the main entrance north connector side on the left side. And then this last photo is just the South Bridge steel. So you'll see that obviously the steel bridge is up, and then we also placed a concrete slab as well early in the week.
Are there any questions at this point? Are there any questions? Let the record reflect that the school committee woman Del Rossi is here, please. Thank you.
Yes. When you say weather tight, can you explain what that actually means for the windows?
Yeah, well, so it's not the windows yet, it's just roof building for the roof tight, so the roof will be installed. And then in the next month, will be facade tight, so we'll have curtain walls and the windows and everything. That's next month.
So it'll be concealed,
Yes,
essentially?
yes.
Okay.
So weather tight is like the roof, and then it's all frame and sheath.
Will there be any fresh air intake into the building?
Not right now, yes.
Not right now, but eventually?
Yes. Right now, it's just, like I said, it's going to be weather tight with the roof, the walls, and then once we have like the ductwork installed and everything, that's when we have like the clean air exhaust going in.
You understand, that it was difficult in some of the Zoom meetings to really see what's going on and be able to talk with some type of a surety that, you know, we understood it. You're going to talk about, we'll say, bathrooms and rooms later on
Yes.
at this point? Okay. I think, so regarding this, where we are at this particular point, are there any problems that we should have been aware of? You know, timing for the project, is it right, it's right on schedule, the way everything looks? But there's no issues that we should be concerned with?
Nope, it should be a July turnover of 2024 for Phase 2.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samaras. So Phase 1, any other questions?
I have a question. I'm interested in, thank you, interested in knowing if the roof will be installed on the Freshman Academy sometime in the next few months?
It's actually going to be complete by July,
Okay.
yes.
So the Freshman Academy building then would be solar-ready at that point?
Solar? That's not part of,
No, it's not part of our contract, but it is part of the definition of the building development.
The electrical conduits that are part of the ability to be solar ready will not necessarily be done at the same time the roof is, but the required accommodations will be done at some point, you know, during Phase 2.
So sometime but between now and the spring of '24?
Summer, July of
July of 2024.
Okay. Do we have any idea when that would be?
the individual components, I'd have to look.
Would that be something you could find out?
Yes.
Great. Any other questions in regards to Phase 1 before we move on to Phase 2? Or further discussion? Not seeing anybody, anything? Thank you. Next. Jim?
Okay, moving on to Part 3, which is the MBE WBE workforce update. Okay, so total construction minority workforce, we are currently at 24.5%. And that's approximately 463 workers, roughly 60,000 hours in place. The total construction female workforce, we are at 3.7%, 72 workers and roughly 9,000 hours in place. And then the total construction Lowell residents, we're at 10.4%, 96 workers and approximately 25,000 hours worked.
Are there any questions in regards to MBE, WBE workforce? Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Senator Kennedy?
Yeah, if I could, you give this at every meeting, these percentages. when we first started this project several years ago, we were trying to achieve a certain percentage in each category. Can you add that going forward from now on so that we'll know whether or not we've achieved the percentage or whether we still have a ways to go?
Sure, I can actually provide that info right now as well. So the minority workforce, the goal is 15.3%. Right now, we're at 24.5, so we have achieved that goal. For female workforce, the goal is 6.9. We are only at 3.7%. So we are working with our compliance managers, in-house business, and she's working with the subs right now. There are specialty trades that do not have female workers, but there are some that, as they're coming on board now, like Neffs, Costa Brothers, so we're gonna be seeing more female.
Okay,
Yeah, but I'll make sure I include
All right.
that number.
going forward?
Yes.
Yeah,
Resident, there wasn't a goal. Yeah, but we're at 10.4.
Just for a point of clarification, there was not a goal on the total construction. I'm just saying this for the folks that may not have heard it. The total construction Lowell residence is currently at 10.4, but we did not have a goal set when we first started. Excellent. Any other questions on MBE, WBE? Any other questions before we move forward? Excellent. Part 4, designer update.
I'll turn that over to Joe or Robin.
I think Robin is going to bring us through.
Good evening. So there's been some questions on locations and distribution of toilets for students when the project is done. So the slides and the handouts show a overall of the school when it's completed on locations of the student toilets that are accessible immediately off of a hallway. So that would exclude toilets available for students that are within classrooms. There's some certain programs that require private bathrooms for their operations. It excludes student toilets that are in the nurses' rooms and things like that. But as you can see, in the basement, there are 6 rooms that are highlighted, 3 for boys, 3 for girls. On the first floor, could you, whoever's controlling, go to the next floor? Thank you. So it's highlighted as they go across both sides of the canal. So I believe your cursor was just then on the Freshman Academy, so there's a pair there for, it's a multi-user bathroom for boys and girls. In the 1980s section, there's another pair. Part D, which is the extension of 1980s that's under construction right now, that also has boys and girls. As you know, the facility is available in the gymnasium wing. And then in the 1920s or East Campus, there are another 3 boys and girls provided. Going to the second floor, you can see again how they're distributed across the campus. So similar, in many cases, they're stacked on top of each other, which has an efficiency from a plumbing standpoint. And then finally on the third floor, you can see the distribution of the bathrooms across. When we are done, we'll have fixtures for boys and girls that exceeds 90, which is above and beyond the plumbing code requirement, which we've said before, and it is more than they are currently using at the high school.
Are there any questions in regards to this? Any questions at all?
yes, I have.
A select-
Yes, I do, Ben.
Oh.
Are these provisions in the original design, or has there been any revision to these provisions?
The revision has been limited to on the first floor. We've added student toilets in Part D, so they will be available at the end of this current phase.
All set, Mr. O'Para? Any other questions in regards to the design? School committee one?
Yes, could you just break down how many actual bathrooms will be on each floor? Like, how many will be on the first floor?
Sure. In the final condition? So, so boys and girls or total?
Boys and girls.
So in the basement of the east building, there are 3 boys and 3 girls. So I'll just kind of go through the east all together. There's 3 boys and girls on the first floor. Second floor is 2 and 2. Third floor is 3 and 3. Now onto the west campus. And for the west campus, I'm excluding the gym because people, know that space. So I'm doing it different, even separating it. There's 3 boys, 3 girls to be the same process. Second floor, 2 and 2. Third floor, 2 and 2. Fourth floor, 1 and 1. Fifth floor, 1 and 1. And then the gymnasium, the bathrooms are 1 and 1. And second floor, 1 and 1. So there's a total of 22 boy rooms and 22 girl rooms. And toilet rooms consist of different varying quantity of fixtures in them, based on the size, distribution, and so forth. But they're all multi-user bathrooms.
Okay, so where did you get 90? There would be 90?
Right, because some bathrooms have 2 fixtures in them, so 2 toilets, and some have up to 6 or 7 fixtures in it, so that's the varying quantity of toilets or urinals in those spaces.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
Any other questions in regards to the designer? Mr. Samaras?
My other question would be to Mr. Fiato. Are you satisfied with, I know you've been working with the architects, but are you satisfied with the distribution? Because if anybody should be, it's your team.
Based on the renderings, I'm very satisfied. Exceeds what we're currently using right now. It provides bathrooms, sufficient bathrooms on every floor. Things that I think about are walking distance, transition times. How long does it take a student to go from one end of the building to the other and be able to use a bathroom and not have to deviate from their current route, so that they can get to class on time and be where they're supposed to be. Based on a couple of weeks ago, I asked the team to provide Dr. Howe and I with a special preview of bathrooms, and they were able to do that. And I wanted to kind of drill down to the number of fixtures. And there's some flexibility in terms of the size of the bathroom. Some bathrooms are bigger than others, but at the end of the day, we have more coming on board than we currently have. So I'm glad that you asked me that question, and I do feel that it's above, they're being above board with the number of bathrooms that we have accessible for our students. I did want to ask about faculty bathrooms. I don't know if you're going to cover that in this presentation.
It was not asked, but what is the question? So I can answer.
Are you able to go through faculty bathroom locations, and how many will there be per floor?
I can. Hold on a second, different chart. So similarly to the student, they are scattered throughout the site. What does make them different from the student is that they are all single user. We do, for the purposes from the plumbing code standpoint, identify them as male and female, but it's not uncommon for that signage to change based on the users. So starting in the east, so this actually, I just lumped it by floor, but it is 3 and 3 for staff in the east basement, 2 and 2 on the first floor, 3 and 3 on the second, with a note that the second floor, there are additional staff bathrooms available within house offices, so some admin folks have some, and whoever has permission to use it, they also have additional. And then third floor, it's 2 and 2. Moving into the east, it is 3 and 3 with 1 in the admin next to your office, Mike. Second floor, 2 and 2 with 1 within an admin. Third floor, 3 and 3, and then fourth and fifth each have 1 and 1. And they're kind of centrally located on the hallway, so sensitivity to teachers' ability to hop in between classes or for time. So there is a total of 10 and 10. That's in the west, and then the gym has some within the PE offices. So for a total of 20 male toilet rooms, 20 female, and then 8 that are within suites and off of hallways. No problem.
Excellent.
So basically, what's important? no teacher has to go to another floor, so each floor contains bathrooms.
When they're not in use, yes, that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Designer update. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Designer update. Mr. Underwood?
Are the student bathrooms being eliminated from Coben Hall? I don't see them in this plan.
No,
Question is, are the student bathrooms being eliminated from Coburn Hall?
no, there should be some highlighted. If you go back,
I'm looking at second floor, student toilets. Closest to the bottom would be Coben Hall, correct?
the third floor definitely, they're definitely in different places than they currently are. So off the new media library, there are some. And that may be it. One significant difference is how the building is used in terms of classrooms versus admin and so forth. A good section of one of the floors is therapy spaces, so the number of people there are significantly less. So that led to kind of where bathrooms would be.
We're also, the media center will be in there, so what is now a two-level area will be a cathedral-ceilinged media center, renewing what used to be a dance hall when the building was first built back in the late 1800s, so that you end up with less floor space, but greater overall space for the media center air-wise.
And the basement also has student bathrooms in it. They're very small on the floor plan, but they are there.
Excellent. Designer update. Last call, designer update. Questions, thoughts, concerns? All right, moving on to the budget. Jim?
First page, as we always go through, the main item we track is the construction contingency. We have some change orders in the review and signature process now, so we're actually at the same amount of change orders approved as we were last month at $1.7 million. There's $19.4 million remaining in the owner's contingency. I have provided a breakdown of that $1.7 million by different categories as was requested last month. There's structural, $25,000, site, $51,000, $133,000 in utilities, just over $500,000 mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and all the other trades fall into architectural, which is approximately $1 million, and I'll continue to provide that breakdown. Currently pending change requests are $2.4 million, and as we discussed last month, that is the face value of how they were submitted. There is a strong vetting process, and a lot of those do not get approved at what they are submitted at. I know I can think of off the top of my head almost $400,000 in those that we have knocked down. So, but just for tracking purposes and potential exposure, we carry the whole number. Moving on, the May requisition was $4.8 million, and we have spent $133 million to date. Again, this is the condensed version of the budget, and we send a full budget report to Mr. Baldwin monthly with the monthly invoices. Thank you.
All right, in regards to budget updates, questions, thoughts, concerns? Michael?
Question on the breakdown of the change order. Question on the change order contingency. How is the architect piece $1 million?
It's not the architect, it's architectural items, walls, finishes, anything that's not mechanical utility. So it's not the architect. I probably could have phrased that better. I know Robin made a comment earlier.
Thank you.
All right, budget summary, questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes.
Just a quick question. You said the 1.78 breakdown, that's not in the packet, right? I'm not missing that.
No, it's right in the middle, bottom of the middle column.
Oh, just below, I see. Thank you. And the 2.4, that's being evaluated now?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Budget discussion. Thoughts? Anyone? Any other concerns? All right, seeing none. Mr. Dowd?
I believe we have, the next item is, I believe we have two motions on the agenda. Mr. Manager?
Under old business? Yep, I got it. Thank you. Provide drawings to the SPC members. Mr. Dowd?
We have discussed that as was discussed at previous meetings. We are not, in speaking with your office, Mr. Manager, for security reasons, we are not inclined to publish the drawings to large groups as a whole. If anyone wants to drop by our office on the SBC, we are more than happy to walk you through the drawings. But for security concerns, we're not looking to, or not inclined to publish the drawings to large groups.
Any discussion on that? Any discussion?
It is a copy of the drawings if someone wants to take a look afterwards, or anybody wants to drop by our office, we're more than happy to walk people through the drawings on any day.
Can you bring those to every meeting for us?
I will, yes.
And Jim, what are the hours of your office if we wanted to drop by?
We are there 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And can you give us a physical address?
We are at
116 John Street.
Okay.
Beyond the boot mill office, right across from Boarding House Park.
Oh, great.
directly behind the stage.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Byrne?
Mr. Chairman, does this require a vote? Because it probably, do we need to take a vote on this? Because it's an agenda item? Because maybe we can do it so it doesn't come up again?
Wish of the body. I mean, we're just trying to, I think that we're trying to find a way to ensure that the drawings are shared with everyone here, but at the same time, being cognizant of safety concerns. So if the body wishes to accept the recommendation, I think that all in favor of the recommendation of keeping them in-house, and if you need to see them, we can set some time up. All in favor of that? Aye. Seeing aye? Any opposed? Any opposed? Any opposed? I see no opposed. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Byrne. Yes, Mr. Samaras.
You know, it's after the fact, but is there a possibility that we'll see some type of, I talked about artist renditions, so we have an idea what the type of classroom space will be? Or, you know, in other words, do a couple of things of rooms. This is what a typical classroom, this is the art room. You know, it doesn't have to be shown in place, but the thing is.
I would defer to Perkins Eastman.
In other words, so we can have a visual idea, be able, when we're talking about how the high school is coming.
Sure,
you know,
and
the next steps are when it's enclosed, this is what it's gonna be. And, or actually, Mr. Piatto, you do work with them, are you pleased with what you see? In other words, it's working classroom space, artist space, physical workout space, things like that.
I'll just say, as we get closer to completion of the project, thinking about next year, it would be awesome for our faculty and students and families to start to get a glimpse of what the classrooms and the hallways will look like. So, to the best of our ability to depict those, I believe it would be beneficial and advantageous to start to present that as we get closer to finished product.
That's a better, I mean, it's good for us, but naturally for the students and the families that utilize the high school, this is important at this point.
I think there's a couple things that can be done. The illustrations, I think we are working on those, and some of those are at different levels. So when we get them to a point, we can certainly share them with you. And then we also usually take a typical classroom and accelerate that, build it out as an example for all the trades so that they know exactly how to place the casework in a classroom where marker boards are going to be hung. And when you have so many classrooms like this, we like to take one and take it pretty far. So it may be a possibility to bring the SBC through when that is ready as well.
That would be a great help. I mean, I know Mr. Piatto would want him and his staff to be able to do that, or for us to be able to see that. I mean, it just puts us in a better place to be able to explain at what level the high school's at.
I agree. I think even though we do illustrations, some people respond to them very well and very clear to them, and others have challenges understanding and fully appreciating what the space will be. So I think that may be a possibility. We'll work with Suffolk.
I think that's a very good answer, because what you're saying is Mr. Fiato and his staff and us also will be able to see an actual classroom, and if we have any questions, that's where they'll come from. Because, you know, is it large enough? You know, I mean, does it really work where you're not going to have you're not looking at regular desks, correct? You're looking at making the rooms almost all-purpose, correct?
Yeah, it's important to have a lot of future planned into the room, so flexibility is very important.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Byrne?
I think it's a great thought that the headmaster brought up, head of schools. Also, it could be a great tool for recruiting and retaining our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so we don't lose them, you know, to private schools. I mean, I like private schools, but I want to see them stay at Lowell High School. And so I think it's a good tool for, you know, the head of schools and his staff to be able to go out and recruit the junior high kids to stay in the city.
Excellent. Any other comments on this? Any other comments? Seeing none. Mr. Dowd, summary schedule to the SBC Monthly.
Yes, we would recommend approval of this motion. We have already put together a summary schedule that can be included. We would recommend approval of this motion. We have already put together a summary schedule that could be included within the meeting minutes, and this is, the team can work with this absolutely.
Any questions from Mr. Dowd in regards to the summary schedule for the SBC Monthlies? Any questions? Seeing any questions?
I just want to ask Jim, for example, we talked about the roof on the Freshman Academy, for example. Could we drill down on that schedule? Would that have enough line items for us to see when that roof is being installed, just as an example?
Ms. Chang?
So we condensed the schedule for last month, but if we want to do that, then it's just going to be the 3-page summary. So we can include that, yes.
That sounds great, thank you.
Any further questions about the Motion B, I guess we're going to call it, Motion B? Any further questions about Motion B? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed? Any opposed? I don't see any opposed. Motion passes. Mr. Dowd, providing the OAC minutes to the SBC Weekly.
Yes, Mr. Manager, we have had a lot of discussion with your office and within the team. Publishing the OAC minutes, I have never seen that done in any projects to the SBC. I've consulted with colleagues around the state, nor have they. In the OAC meetings, there is a lot of issues that pertain to how we are working with subcontractors and negotiating in the best interest of the city that is within those OAC minutes. Also, the interactions between the architect in the city, Suffolk in the city, and having those meetings published publicly, I think would absolutely inhibit discussion in those meetings, and the function of the meetings would be inhibited. In discussions we've had, I'd equate it to those being more of an executive session. Those are not public meetings, and I think it would be detrimental to the project and to the best interests of the city to make that a public document. And we would suggest that those not be published. Again, anybody has any questions, looking for a summary, our door is open. If anybody wants to speak with us at any time, but I think, again, those are more of an executive session type document, and I don't think it'd be in the best interest of the project to have those distributed to a larger group.
In regards to motion C, does anybody have any questions? Any questions about motion C?
I have a question. I have a question. Ben has a question. And I'm sorry my voice is gone, but I was wondering if somebody requests, ask for those minutes and you provide them, will they be bound by confidentiality not to disclose what they found there, since it is done under executive session?
I don't know. I think we'd have to consult with the city solicitor's office, and I believe the attorney general's office then has jurisdiction of that question.
If I may, having had the ability with the OAC meetings, some of the discussions are very direct, and it's not hiding anything, but they're working through some issues. Maybe it wouldn't be as direct. I think that's what you're getting at, Mr. Dowd.
Exactly. That's what I meant by inhibit discussion.
Yeah. People may be holding back when it's not it's not it's not in the best interest of the project as a whole. And I give you, what could be a problem may not end up being a problem, and people may actually end up holding back. I think that's where we're kind of going with that.
Yes, and there's also, I know in this room, Mr. Underwood attends all those meetings, Mr. Machado, Dr. Howe, and other city employees are at every meeting, so there's certainly plenty of people informed in those meetings as to what's going on.
Are there any questions? Any questions?
Mr. Manager?
Senator Kennedy?
Yeah, I think going forward, if a majority of the building committee wanted to meet in executive session, it could vote to meet in executive session and hear that information at that point. Not that that will necessarily happen, but I think that's one option that would probably satisfy the request.
Any further questions?
Yeah, from my view, it seems like the request is really just inform us a little better about progress. Maybe there's an opportunity to do a redacted issuance of those minutes, or something that just ticks off 5 or 6 items that happen on a weekly basis that are likely to become issues where we need to have a better understanding of the process. For example, the restroom issue. When that came up, we were kind of blindsided as a committee and didn't have the opportunity to speak really because we hadn't any prior knowledge of the issue. So I'm wondering if there's some way that we could get some form, and I understand we don't want people to feel inhibited, we don't want the process of those meetings to be reduced in their ability to function. But we would like to have, right now we have a very generalized presentation when we come in of what's going on, and it would be really very helpful to us to be able to look at some of the items of construction that are ongoing and of question.
I could add
Mr. Dowd?
I could add a page of
a summary
a bullet point of active issues for the presentation next. We'll put that on the agenda, and we could do that going forward because there are certainly issues every day that we encounter. The project is quite challenging, so We can certainly provide that.
If we could go with the summary, I think, and what Senator Kennedy had stated earlier, if there's any need to go into an executive session, I think that would be welcomed. But once again, nothing's here. Sometimes it's just dealing with issues that may they may actually be hindered. So, trying to just get the piece accomplished. So, as far as motion C, the recommendation would not to provide this weekly, but I'd like to follow up before we actually take a vote on that. We would be asking Mr. Dowd to put together a summary of those weekly meetings and include them to the OAC. Is that what I'm hearing from the body? Ms. Shee?
Thank you. Not just a summary of the weekly meetings, but any issues that you see cropping up that are probably going to be percolating to this committee, because, there's, to Jay's points, there's a misconception among the public out there that this body is managing the construction of the high school. And, I think we all know that there's a smaller group that really gets into the nitty-gritty on this. But we're the first, group that people come to, particularly about the bathrooms, for example. So I think, if there's an issue that's sort of, if you can raise a red flag for us so that we know, that'd be really good. Thanks.
I think just to add on to that, one of the issues that had come up was the inside the gym when we had the seating. The seating was going to, the bleachers were going to. We didn't know. This was the interesting thing. We weren't sure, and there was a real concern, which of course we led and said we're going. The probabilities these bleachers are going to be. I think they were 3 weeks late. I'd love to be corrected and it was only a week late. But there's things like that there's free flow conversation that we're really unsure of what is happening because of what's happening throughout the supply side. So that's what I think would be hindered. But so a robust summary of what's happening, any issues, any thoughts, any concerns that OAC would need to know. Is that what I'm hearing now? Is that the?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Would everyone
issued weekly or with this monthly? Or
with that monthly report
or SBC?
With the monthly SBC report, would that be appropriate? Is everyone okay with that?
I think that's fine, and as needed.
Okay, so once again, I think I know where we're going on this. I don't know if so. Providing the OAC minutes to the SBC weekly, we are now going to go with a summary. So I guess I'm going to move to amend, if that's okay. Do I see
I'd like to offer a substitute motion.
Substitute motion?
For a summary schedule with as much detail as the team's able to provide.
And if we could just add that in the event we need to go an executive summary, as the Senator had mentioned, if that could be, would that be appropriate?
Yeah, and add and to add that it's going to be on a monthly basis. The substitute motion needs to indicate that it's going to be on a monthly or as needed basis.
Okay, that's great. So let's take the substitute motion offered by Mr. Baldwin and seconded, I think it was by Mr. Byrne. All in favor? All in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed? Any opposed? Seeing no opposed. 3 votes accepted, 3 votes taken. Mr. Dowd, next steps.
Next steps are we have a strong summer ahead of us. There are projects going on in the 1922 building, the 1980 building, as well as wrapping up a lot of items in the gymnasium that could not take place while the gymnasium was occupied. And so we have school ended yesterday, and we have a strong 60 days ahead of us, and that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dowd, to you and your team. Questions, thoughts, concerns, new business, something that somebody's looking to ask. Mr. Samaras.
I promise to be good. No, I want to thank the team for a great presentation. I'd like to offer a motion that would suggest that we meet every other month, because you did a lot of work to prepare for this. And it's better for us to be able to see things. I mean, the idea of red flagging certain issues, I mean, that could be a call to come back to a meeting. But when you talk about as needed, I would think that if we had a meeting like this, not Zoom meetings, but an actual meeting like this, where we really get to have a good discussion, but we have things in front of us, and also you were able to provide other information because you have your own set of guide work or, plans. So the thing is, I'd like to make the motion that we meet every other month, even possibly going up to 3 months if there's nothing to present. If things are just working as it is, there's no problems. But the thing is, if there are problems, I would request that you would, call not so much an emergency meeting, but an extra meeting. But I think if we did it every other month.
Motion on the floor. Does the motion on the floor to go to every other month have a second? Has a second by Mr.
Yeah, second, Mr. Manager.
Seconded by Senator Kennedy and Representative Elliott. Open for discussion. All those in favor of this motion? Sorry, Ms. Sheehy. Or opposed?
I'd be open to every other month, but I don't think we want to go 3 months.
Okay.
So once again, on the discussion of every other month, those that would like to speak against, those that would like to speak against, those that would like to speak against.
I would like to stay as is. I think there's just so much detail, and we start getting in the rehab world, we're going to see things move a lot faster. But if we go every other,
Okay. Duly noted. Any other members against that would like to speak against?
I would just like to mention that this is an important project, and I want us to be eyes wide open if we make a decision like this. I think we could table this and come back and vote on it next meeting, perhaps. But to move, if we're going to vote on it tonight, I would vote against it as well.
Mr. Manager?
Senator Kennedy.
Yeah, that's it. I think the motion is probably a good idea. If we met, 6 times a year, once every 2 months, I think that's probably adequate, with the caveat that if something came up or you thought that there was a reason to have an additional meeting, that you would be able to call the additional meeting. And I think that probably would cover everything for us. But it also would allow for the committee members to be able to plan out their schedules going forward, which, as we all know, we've had difficulty achieving a quorum for the past 2 or 3 meetings. So I'm in support of the motion, but I also would want that caveat in the motion that the city manager can call an additional meeting if he sees fit.
Okay, we have a couple things going on here, which is totally fine. What I'm hearing is meeting every other month with still a monthly update. I mean, people want to still be very dialed in as to what's happening. Michael brought up a very good point, I think, in the sense of what is happening. So I'm going to entertain either Mr. Samaras' motion or a separate motion, or do we want to do this in July?
But Mr. Manager, is
Seconded on his motion, unless there's a substitute, I move that question.
You move Mr. Samaras' question. Any other comments on it? Any other comments? Senator Kennedy.
Is Mayor Samaras open to that caveat that you would be able to call additional meetings if it was warranted?
Yes, that's actually the proper way to do that. I think that would please everybody, and it would allow the team to be as well prepared as they were today, if they have some time to put these things together.
So just to be clear, the amended motion is to go every other month, still have a monthly memo update, and have the ability for the city manager to call an emergency meeting if needed. Do we all agree with that? Is that what we're hearing, if that's all right with Mr. Samaras?
Perfect.
And it has been seconded by Representative Elliott? Roll call.
Andrew Golden. Yes. Michael Vaughn. Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Boyd. Richard Underwood. Michael Fiato. Yes. Connor Baldwin.
Yes.
Mark Byrne. Yes. James Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Chow. David Peasley.
Yes.
William Samaras.
Yes.
Senator Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy. Representative Elliott.
Yes.
Mary Ann Manzi. Jay Mason.
Yes.
Maria Sheehy.
Yes.
Benjamin O'Hara.
Yes.
Erica Harvey. John Haley. 16. Motion passes.
16 having voted in the affirmative, the motion passes. Okay, Mr. Dowd, any other updates, thoughts before we open it for any other discussions? Anyone?
I would suggest that the next meeting be held on Thursday, August 24th.
Thursday, August 24th. Thursday, August 24th. Unless there's
I'll second the motion.
seconded motion for August 24th. If that's everybody who's okay, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any opposed? No opposed? Motion passes. Any other new business? Any other new business?
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Baldwin?
Thank you, Mr. Manager, if I could. I think since we're not going to be meeting until August, there is some housekeeping business, and I think Mr. St. Cyr is not officially a member of the body. So perhaps, if it's okay with everyone here, we could take a vote. He is the DPW commissioner. Historically, we've had the DPW commissioner as a member of the body, but I think since the transition, Mr. St. Cyr hasn't officially come over. But since we won't be meeting until August, I just invite to my colleagues that we take a vote on that this evening.
Motion to appoint the DPW director to the school building committee.
A motion, I have a second. I have a second. Any discussion? Any discussion?
Mr. Manager?
Senator Kennedy?
Yeah, thank you. I don't believe Dr. Boyd will be at any more meetings, and so I think the school committee has yet to name an interim, but maybe the interim superintendent could be included in Mr. Baldwin's motion, because whoever's the interim superintendent should also be a member of this committee as well, if there's no objection from Mr. Baldwin.
Mr. Baldwin has no objection?
Of course not, and I would add one more to maybe add Ms. Del Rossi as a official member, just by way of the vote for the record.
For the record. Any questions? Any questions? No questions seen. All in favor? Any opposed? No opposed? No opposed. Motion passes. August 24th will be the next meeting. In July, the school building committee members, sorry about that, will be receiving an update from Mr. Dowd. And thank you all very much. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, so moved. Seconded?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
Any opposed? Thank you all very much.